I don't know what's going on here. Let's bring this back. I don't know if it's the wind or what's going on, but I am not casting well. I don't know what is going on.
Hey everybody! I know, I look weird. And that's alright. I mean to look weird. So what I'm doing today is I have a couple of rods that I've been casting out with a buddy. And he's like, oh my God, you ever put oil in that thing? And I gotta be honest with you, I really don't. Ugh. Anyway, my name is Kirk. Welcome to the channel. And today I'm going to be oiling up some bait casting reels made by Daiwa. Daiwa, a lot of times, really doesn't come very oiled up. So I've decided it's probably a good idea to get these taken apart, oil up some of the bearings, and get them casting correctly. I did this to one other reel, and oh my goodness, what a difference it made. So I'm all geared up, got my readers on, I got my flashlight, and I got my head camera so you'll be able to see what I'm doing. But I'm gonna have both cameras going. So it might look a little funny. Actually, it's gonna look real funny. So I have actually two sets of readers. Time out. We had to do a battery change. Uh-oh, we got dogs going too. All right, so as I was saying, I've got a couple of Daiwa reels and they're just grinding. Whenever I cast them out, they're making like this buzz sound. So if you guys have Daiwa reels or any reel that's really making a big buzz when you're casting them out, it's likely that they're very low on oil, or as I said, Daiwa is not really putting a lot of oil and grease on their reels right out of the factory. One of the reels was brand new. I casted it out and my buddy's casting out his Shimano and it's like, whoosh, and mine's like, bzzz, and I'm not getting good distance, and even on the reel, I'm feeling like it doesn't feel real good. So, here's what we got here. Let's get this camera turned on too. Dual cameras. Here we go. Here's what I have here. This is a Daiwa reel underneath this this container. As you can see, I cover my reels to keep them out of trouble, but this isn't really helping. So this is one of my reels that I use for my walking baits. There's really no reason that really to get involved in it. Well, I'll open it up. I'm probably just gonna get poked. So anyway, here's what you need. First, you need a casting reel. This one happens to be a Daiwa Titulo, and we're going to be making a change on this. Or not a change. We're gonna be oiling this up. So any reel you could do this to. Every reel has a little bit of a different way of taking them apart, but I think overall the idea is going to be the same. Okay, so anyway, here are some of the things you're going to need. Some oil. Luz has a Lucas oil, which I really like this oil. It gives me a nice applicator pin, which makes it very easy to get into the areas. You're going to need some grease. There's a couple different types of grease. Again, I've been staying with the Lucas, and there's the Lucas. You're gonna need a 10mm wrench, a Phillips head screwdriver, small tip on that Phillips head screwdriver. Surprisingly, a quarter or a flathead screwdriver with a big head on it. Gonna need some Q-tips to clean things up. I have a pocket knife if I have to clean up anything. There's another screwdriver that we can use. That's big enough. You don't have to go too much bigger than that. That will do just fine. And that's pretty much it. So those are some of the tools that you're gonna need. And as I said, you're most likely gonna need some good glasses. There's a lot of little intricate parts in here, so it could be a little bit of a challenge. So first things first, and this is, like I said, I know I look weird. You could say it. Do I look weird? I look weird. Of course I do. All right. Because what am I doing? I'm wearing double glasses. We're going to have these on too. So I'll have double glasses. I got the headlight on and I got the head camera on. So you can see all this great stuff. So here are the things that we're going to be working with. We always like to stay hydrated too. Whenever you're doing anything, just make sure you're hydrated. That you really don't need to stay hydrated. I like to stay hydrated. You don't need to. Oh, and you should have a cleaning rag, some kind of cleaning rag. So we got that there. So we're gonna move some of this stuff out of the way. And here we go. Okay, here's our reel here. And this is the screw that we're going to be using our quarter on. And we're just gonna loosen that up, and it's gonna be lefty loosen, so you want to turn it counterclockwise. Counterclockwise on that. Let me make sure my light is good. Now, you don't have to worry about losing the screw. It's got a little spring, and the spring is attached on that screw. You're not going to lose it. And you could push that in like that. All right, now this is the tricky part. I'm like, oh, I'm pulling on this. I couldn't figure out how to get this thing out. Well, you just have to put a little pressure in this area here. And you're gonna see, and put it here. And you'll see that's gonna just kind of twist down, and that's just gonna pop right off. Might have a little tension on it because there's your brake. This is your brake right here, all right? And everything's pretty clean. Actually, this has a little more oil on it than I thought. So we're gonna clean as we go. So we're gonna grab our Q-tip, and we're just gonna kind of rub it around in some of these areas just to kind of get any of that brake dust out of there. And you can see, it's not too dirty. It's a little dirty, but not bad. So that's what we're working on there. So that's my brake, and we're just gonna go in there and we're gonna clean that out, like so. And we're gonna do a little bit of that actually on our head here, or our plate, side plate. Clean in here a little bit. And then what we're gonna do here is we're gonna go right ahead and take our oil, and we're just gonna put a dab. Boop. I like going both sides. Now, I've seen a couple other videos and people don't like to get too crazy with that. But we're gonna do both sides of that, that bearing. Listen, if it's got a little too much oil in there, I don't think it's gonna hurt it. It may collect a little more dust if there's too much oil in there, but I don't think it's gonna hurt us that badly. All right, so we're gonna put our plate off to the side. Now, we're gonna take this section here and we're gonna deploy our bail. I guess we're calling it a bail, right? Is that what we call it on a baitcaster? I think so. You're gonna let a little line out, just a little bit, and we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna take that out. Just grab the pin out, and that whole spool is gonna pop out. All right. Once we have our spool, we're gonna do a little more cleaning right around this area here. That's where it sets up on. Okay, so we just wanna rub this clean. All right, and we're gonna come back to that. We'll oil that later. All right, we're just gonna put that off to the side. And then, if we see any gunk, we could certainly clean that up. I feel like my light is not exactly aimed in the right spot. That looks a little better. So anything that you might see that's a little gunky, go ahead and clean that up. All right, we'll put our dirty Q-tips over here. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn our reel flat like this. And then we're gonna grab our screwdriver. It's gonna be a small Phillips head screwdriver, and that's gonna go right on this screw here. This is basically a plate. Oh, so this one, I'm sorry. So this particular, I have a couple Daiwa reels here. The other one took a Phillips head screwdriver. This one is not. This one is taking a flathead screwdriver. So I have my trusty Swiss Army knife here. We're going to go ahead and use our Swiss Army knife to loosen this up. And we're just going to back this off like so. This is where you need to start thinking about your parts. And we're just going to make a little pile here. Now what I like to do is I like to kind of put them in an order. So I'm going to put mine in order as I go down from here over. So this plate here is just going to pop right off. Okay, and that exposes our nut. That's a 10 millimeter. You're going to take it and you're going to loosen it. You can use the handle, your crank, to keep it from turning. Again, that's all, everything's going to be counterclockwise. The first time you take this apart, it's possible that this could be a little bit tight. And the reason being is they do put a little bit of Loctite on there to keep that from popping off, or backing off, I should say. So once you break it, it should just back right off. You want to put a little pressure on your crank. This is spring loaded, so you want to be careful. Again, we're going to put this in order, 1, 2, 3, and we're going to let this up nice and easy. And then we're going to put our crank off to the side. Now, there are some parts in here that could be a little bit scary. So just take your time when you take this off. All right, you're going to take this off here. All right, and you can see there's a little dirty grease in there. We're going to go ahead and clean that up. It's not awful. A little bit of grease in there is okay. And that's going to go there. Then you have your spring. And as you can see, I'm putting everything in an order. So when it comes back together, I won't have any issues. Now, this is a little nut. This is basically to hold your bearings and some of your washers together. But this is also a groove that holds your spring. So you have to make sure when you put this back together that that groove is up. All right. Now this sometimes is a little tough to loosen up. You may have to use a wrench, but it looks like we got this good and easy enough by hand. It should only be hand tight, this particular nut. That's for your spring nut. And we're going to take that out. What I like to do when I take these to the side, and we can see there's a washer that's hanging up on this. I can see you got that little washer right there. I like to make sure I put them down exactly how I taken them out. Now, well, this is an area that I'm not really sure what this is called, but we have a couple washers that sit inside there. There's none on the bottom. Again, I just put that down nice. There's no reason to take those washers off. And we have another little washer here. Okay. Now, when it comes to getting these out, I'm not doing a full cleaning. I'm basically just oiling the bearings. If you want to pop this out, you're going to simply turn it over and tap it. And you'll see the bearing will pop right off. Okay, so here's my bearing. Now, for what I'm doing here is I'm just oiling the bearings. So this really isn't even really necessary, because we can oil the bearing from the inside. So that's going to basically go right back on there. We can oil it sitting there. The oil is going to make it through the bearings, and it's going to get all inside those bearings. So it's not going to be a problem if you don't pop it out. If you're going to pop it out, it's really more for getting into the gear work of this. We're not doing that. I'm not going into the gears. I'm not greasing any gears. That's going to be like your annual service. This can be like every couple months or whenever you're feeling some grittiness or graininess. And basically what we're going to do there is there's a little crack right there where the bearing shoe comes together. All right. And like I said, I just like to do 2 drops. I try to drag my drop a little bit when I'm pulling. I try to pull my drop along that bearing. And now that's it. It's really quite that simple. So now it's a matter of putting things back together. And we're going to go in the order that we took it apart. You need to take these washers off. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to get that oil to fall in that bearing. They'll block it from, basically they're dust guards. Let me say it that way. All right. Now this does have a flat groove in there, so it's only going to go one way. All right. Easy. The washer's still on the bottom. We're going to screw this down. And this again only needs to be hand tight. Only hand tight on the spring nut is what we're going to call it. I'm not certain what they call it, but we're going to call it a spring nut. Just going to screw that down. And we're just going to snug it. You don't have to get too crazy. All right. While we have our drag spool off, we're just going to go in there where it's really kind of tough to clean. And you can see how dirty it gets in there. But that's mainly just top dirt. So just going to get some of this stuff that would be a little more difficult with a rag. Our spring goes on next. Really simple. Now this can be tough. There's a little piece right here. This piece right here gets a little difficult. This does make the your drag a little tough to go on. There's a little area here. You can see this clicks through. That's going to tighten up that drag. So this is going to push in there, and you're going to move this around till it kind of falls into place. You don't want to turn too hard. You can see that kind of clipped in and dropped down. We're going to put our crank on. Oh, and this happened to me last time. This is another dust shield. Looks like a washer, but it's a dust shield. That's on the back of that crank. Got to make sure we get that back on. And quick clean that off a little bit because I won't be able to get back there again. And that's going to sit there. Keep downward pressure. Now we can start getting our nut down. Once you have the nut on, you can release it and it won't pop off. So now it's just a matter of tightening that up. Another thing, if you have a reel and if it just feels like you've got a lot of like play in here, this nut could be loose. So you want that just snug enough that you're not going to feel a bunch of slop. It's not super tight. You're not really going to have to take the wrench on it too much here. All right, so we're just going to take and just give us another little kiss of tightness. Now when we put this on, this actually keeps the nut. And this is a nut. This is like a secure cap that keeps the nut from moving around. We're going to put that back on. And you can see the nut needs to be moved. So there's a little hole here. These holes have to line up. So we can either do two things. We can tighten it a little more, or we can loosen it a little more. And that looks good. That's pretty well lined up. And take our screw. And then we're just going to drive that screw in. This should be fairly snug. Like so. All right. We're going to flip this back over. Remember I was telling you about this area here. We're going to grab our oil again. We're going to oil just this base just a little bit. And we want to put a little oil on the shaft. All right, and you can rub that in nice. All right. Now this is going to go back through the spool. Got to make sure your line doesn't go on the back side of your spool. It'll make things really rough. So just hold that line, get that in so you don't tuck the line behind the spool, and that's set there. Pretty good. All right, we're back here. I believe, did I put oil on this? I can't even remember if I put oil on here. Like I said, you can't go wrong if it has too much. I think I did. All right, and then this is gonna go back on a little bit of an angle. Like so. And then that's just going to turn up. You're going to feel that fall flat and then turn it up. We're going to take our quarter and we're just going to tighten up this screw. Now this does not get super tight. You want to make sure that you leave this loose enough that you could still see like just a piece of grass or something stuck in there. You want to make sure that you can adjust your brake well. I snugged this down a little too tight on one of my other units, one of my other reels. it's just got a little something stuck there. It's like trying to blow out your candles when you're like 1 year old. Like I said, you just want to make sure that that's moving good. It's fairly snug. Remember, there's that spring is holding that up. So that's that. All right. So what I like to do here now is I'm going to take a clean Q-tip and I'm going to go right along this area here. And I want to clean any of that old grease out along that track. Then we're going to take some line out just so we can move our space here so we can get everything clean. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get our grease. I've been very pleased with the Lucas grease. It's been working out real nice. And basically what I want to do is, you'll see we have little grooves in there. I want to put that on each groove. Just a little dab. Okay, so you see it's just bubbled up right now. We're going to take a bunch of line out. We're all used to this part. I think we've all had a bird nest or two with the baitcasters. So you just want to get some line out. Make sure you hold your line back in taut. And we just want to run that through that grease and get that grease going through and cleaning that up. And I can already feel my bearings already feel better. You can run that through a few times if you'd like. You know, once we take it out on the water, that grease is going to get itself all where it needs to be. That's feeling pretty good. Make sure your drag's set. I always like to reset my brake back to like maybe, depending on how you run your brake, I usually will run it 4 or 5 clicks higher. I'd rather throw it in the brake real fast than have a overspin and bird nest. So I usually set my brake up down like an 18. When I'm throwing some lines, I'm only sometimes, depending on what I'm throwing, maybe around a 8 or a 6, depending on what I'm throwing. But that's it, real easy, real simple. So let's get kind of back to our original self. So my glasses now are off. Here's my dirty stuff here. I'll go to one single glass here. Here are some of the things that we used. Tetty. And that's it. That's it. So little baitcaster maintenance, if you're feeling some grinding, that's gonna help you out real good. Wait right there. Wait right there. Let's put a hat on. Okay. We could turn that off. Take that off. I think you can take this off. Put a hat on. Oh, try not to blind us. We're still trying not to blind us. All right, that's it. Well, anyway, guys, really appreciate you guys watching. I know this is just kind of a quickie. I was working on this anyway, and I thought maybe I should just video one. So if you ever have this issue with any of your casting reels, if you got a casting reel kind of making a bunch of noise, or you're feeling some grinding other than your braid, you could take this apart easy enough. I didn't get into the gears. The gears are a whole nother animal. That's a lot more taken apart. But these are the items that are likely going to give you that scratchy feel. If it's really grinding, or you've dropped your casting reel in the sand and it got covered in sand, it's likely that you have some sand in your gears. That's a whole nother ball of wax there. But I'm sure you can go online, look at some YouTube videos. I followed a couple YouTube videos to learn how I did this. It's quite simple, really, for just maintenance and getting those bearings oiled up. So I really appreciate you watching. Don't forget to subscribe, Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. Again, I'm Kirk. Thanks again for watching the channel. I really appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next one. Have a great day.